but I really hope that you learn a lot. Yes, I grew up in the Presbyterian Church in a small town called Doylestown, Pennsylvania. There are two churches, the Catholic Church and the Presbyterian Church. It was in the country. There was nothing to do. So everybody went to one of the churches, and I love my Presbyterian Church, love my roots. Then my junior year in high school, we moved to Princeton, and so then I was very involved in Nassau Presbyterian Church, and then after college, led a college and career group, and we actually had the privilege of having Dr. Moffat speak, who did the whole Korean inland missions, who was part of the church. So very much, I've been a counselor at First Pres Covina. I have also overseen the mental health profiles of many people becoming Presbyterian pastors. You guys have an amazing pastor, so I respect him a lot. I'm going to give a talk. You know, they talk about light and darkness in the Bible. I think most of your prophets struggle with depression and mental health issues, bipolar issues. This talk started when a pastor committed suicide in San Bernardino County, affected the whole church. I believe he was bipolar 2, undiagnosed. A young pastor, a young adult, and so it started when the church asked me to come and speak to the whole team of sort of elders, seniors, and begin to talk on mental health. They got involved in NAMI. Unfortunately, the church had to change its name because it almost closed down. So one of my missions is to give this talk in as many churches as possible to help the congregation really understand compassion and understand mental health. Because if we talk about it and we're really open and we have support, suicide is not necessary. It doesn't have to be an issue. In America, we can treat it 100%. We have the meds, we have the treatment teams, we have the psych hospitals, we have NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, which is a fabulous resource. And they actually have a national conference that I go to each year, and then there's a California NAMI, and they have a whole track for people in the church, for pastors, for lay people, to how to bring this into your church. So without further ado, I'm going to give my topic. Suicide in the United States. It's really hard to talk. Suicide is not chosen. It happens when pain exceeds resources for coping with the overwhelming and relentless experience of unending emotional pain. And most people go to their primary care doctor before they commit suicide. Most people talk with someone in the family. Most people open up, and we have to understand the signs. In 2021, 14.4 per 1,000 individuals died by suicide. More than 90% of Americans believe suicide is preventable. That's a high number for suicide. That's a really high number. How can we be the resource for those in the throes of suicide? And this is what I want to teach the church, because a lot of people are in the church that are really, really suffering. And if you have a certain size church, I can tell you the percentage in your church that are going to be struggling with mental health issues and suicide. Okay, and what I'm going to say is often what we find is the underlying disorder is bipolar 2 disorder. I'd say the two things that you'll see are people who've had childhood sexual abuse that goes into PTSD and depression. The other key piece you're going to see is an underlying bipolar 2 disorder. And this is where you're like, oh, this person's so bright, so capable, so charismatic, so creative. And why did they commit suicide? I actually had the privilege of working with a Vineyard church staff. And the pastor came to me and he said, I'm struggling. Two of my pastors are really in a tough place. They came to me, misdiagnosed, both were bipolar 2. And both we treated, we stabilized, and they're doing amazing work. You know, one person has gone public. You probably know Terry Butler and a lot of his songs. He was the first person that I treated. He's written beautiful songs about the disorder, completely stable, public. Another woman has gone to work in Colorado with a Christian ministry. These are remarkable people. Their suffering was private, depression, ADHD, all these misdiagnoses. So one of the things we need to do is really diagnose the issue and get the medication. Bipolar 2 disorder is the most misdiagnosed major mental health disorder for which suicide and suicide ideation are key determinants. And I say, if someone's struggling, ask them, are you suicidal? Do you have suicidal thoughts or feelings? Don't not ask. Because when you ask, they feel really comforted. Once you ask and you say, okay, we are going to get a mental health provider. We're going to get a psychiatrist. I will go with you to your appointments. I will go with you to the psychiatrist until we get stability. Bipolar 2 disorder involves major depression and hypomania. And so I'll explain what these two are so that you can understand it and you can see it in people. Okay, depression. And this is major depression. And this is really dark if you've ever seen people with it. It's really dark. Fatigue is a symptom, weight loss, weight gain, restlessness, insomnia, hypersomnia, thoughts of death and suicide. And then the things that they'll talk about that you'll really see is they have trouble concentrating and they can't make decisions. Then they sort of feel either restless or agitated and really slow down. The other thing you ask somebody is, are you feeling worthless? Because they'll go, oh, how do you know? So you want to, can you not concentrate, make decisions? Are you feeling really worthless? Do you feel like there's a black cloud over you? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, how did you get it? That's your major depression. And so bipolar involves two poles. Depression is one pole, anxiety is another pole. Oops. Depression's one pole, anxiety is another pole. So if anybody goes, oh, my psychiatrist or my therapist diagnosed me as depressed and anxiety, I go, that's two poles, that's bipolar. And so many people get misdiagnosed. They're put on antidepressant and then they're given a benzo to help calm them down. It doesn't work. If you're anxious and depressed, it's called bipolar. If you're anxious, you have anxiety. We want to figure out what that root is, trauma, whatever it is. If you're depressed, you have depression, and we want to help you there. Okay, then these are the symptoms of hypomania, and it's not full-blown mania, it's not psychotic, and so these people, and it comes and goes, so it's not stable. But symptoms are abnormally high self-esteem, really high. And it can look like narcissism, but it's not narcissism. Okay, it's not I think this is going in and out. That's okay. It's not narcissism, but what it is because they're not selfish or self-absorbed. They're just kind of high as a kite and talking nonstop and annoying. The other symptom is it's really different. Is a decreased need for sleep. So they can cruise around with 4 or 5 hours. It usually goes on about 3 or 4 days. This is not always the symptom. This is sometimes. They're feeling more talkative than usual or pressure to keep talking. They'll just blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And really high and hyper. But they're not always that way. Another thing, racing thoughts or more ideas than usual. You'll find the person who's in a hypomanic episode, their thoughts bounce all over the place. Distractibility is another one. Another one is increase in goal-directed behavior. Oh, I'm going to start this ministry. Oh, I'm going to do this and this. And oh, let's do this now. And there's just no basic structure. Yeah, that might be better. Okay. Oops. Is this one on? No.
Oh, shoots it on. Hello, testing?
Yeah.
Oh.
I can use this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have,
No, I just turned that one on, so hopefully.
Okay, there, I just have to talk close to it. So they'll come up with a lot of activities. You can see this in the youth, do this, do that, do this. And they're kind of going, but there's no structure and there's no plan. So that happens. Involvement in pleasurable activities that have a high likelihood to have negative consequences. This can be being really sexual, spending lots of money, going out at night, just being all over the board. And so you'll see this and you'll go, what is that? They're not normally like this, but they are right now, and then they kind of come back to normal. Now the really tough sign is what we call rapid cycle, which is when they're both depressed and anxious and want to jump out of their skin. And that's when suicide happens. That's when they're just tormented souls and they can't take it. And so that's when both are happening at the same time. That's the highest risk. Okay, assessing, often the age of onset is in the 20s. So when you get a lot of college, or you get suicides in college, I'm going to guess 95% is undiagnosed bipolar 2. You'll often see it starting in high school, but then in the 20s is when it really becomes fluid. Family history and genetics. Often I'll ask someone for, a 3-generation history. And so you'll find out, okay, someone else was on antidepressants, or a family member was in a hospital, or someone was struggling with drugs and alcohol, self-medicating, and something happened. And so if you ask multi-generational aunts, uncles, other people, you'll find that it's there, but it really wasn't diagnosed until about 18 years ago. People didn't really understand what it was. Typical misdiagnosis, major depression, ADHD, or they're dual diagnosed. They say drug, alcohol addiction, but underneath you find the mental health disorder. And let me tell you, if anybody is diagnosed ADHD, assume it's wrong. It is a very rare diagnosis. And it's super easy to treat. You give a medicine, they're stable, but most people that are diagnosed ADHD as kids, teens, or as adults, it's going to be bipolar 2. And so don't take that as your diagnosis. If somebody has it, they go to an ed therapist, they're easily stable. A medication of choice is Lamictal or lamotrigine. It was an anti-seizure medication, and then they found that it worked for bipolar 2. And so rather than lithium, the drug they use is lamotrigine. And then sometimes they'll augment with an antidepressant to really pull the bottom up. Suicide, rapid cycling is depression and bipolar. If someone's suicidal, you really want to get them to a hospital, 72-hour hold. You want them to self-admit, because then we can give medications quickly. And so that will bring some quick stabilization. And then there's a difference between moods and feelings. Bipolar people have moods. They don't know what they feel. They're all over the place. They're very emotional. And they may seem like they have tons of feelings, but the feelings aren't interpersonal. It's not like, okay, when I'm hanging out with Tim, I feel kind of happy. Or, it's a mutual feeling. Or when I'm doing a super new activity, I feel really kind of afraid or anxious, but they're appropriate to the situation. And then, you'll see the fruit of the Spirit in someone: love, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness. You're not going to see this in bipolar. They can be very sweet, kind people, but they're all over the place. Kind of here, there. And you just kind of recognize that this is moods. They come and go, but they're not congruent, and they're not interpersonal, and they're not relational. Okay, your treatment team. You need a team. You need a therapist. You need a psychiatrist. Inpatient hospitalization often helps when it's acute. And then I love day treatment programs, because they give sort of a cognitive behavioral understanding. Then you sit in a group and you go, oh, I get it. We're all in here together. And then they start to give you tools. There's also great workbooks out there, Bipolar 2 workbook. Family member support. If I have someone that's bipolar, I refuse to treat without the family, because they have a distorted perception of reality. So half my caseload is bipolar. I diagnose it really quick, and then I say, whoever lives with you is coming into therapy. And then they all come in, we get stabilization. I say, any family members, and then I tell them that it's I think it's going out. Can I just talk?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, so then I just tell them that I'm not going to break secrets unless you're suicidal or doing something crazy. But every one of the people in this room can call me anytime and let me know what's going on. And they're like, I said, otherwise I'm not treating. And they're like, okay. I said, they may rat you out, but they love you. And the people living with you are going to be my treatment team. Depression and bipolar support groups are fabulous. Again, they're free. You can get in them. They're out there. NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, has family groups. I worked with a family, a wonderful Christian family at a Presbyterian church in Claremont. It was one of my first cases. And it turns out both teen twin daughters were bipolar. And so I got them in high school, starting to see what they were doing. Question?
No.
Oh.
When you finish that thought.
Okay. So anyway, both were bipolar. So I started working with the family, figuring it out. parents would come into sessions, and then it was when I really began to understand it that then they found a NAMI group and they became leaders of a NAMI group in Claremont. And so it was wonderful just to see how the parents stepped in and then they were supporting other family members.
We have a friend of our church who runs a NAMI Orange County
Love it.
support group.
Love it. This person, yeah, we want to get this person to be really known in your church. Every pastor, I think, should know who this is and have a phone number. Absolutely.
Leanne Donaldson. That is her.
Okay, the name is
Leanne Donaldson.
Okay, the name is Leanne Donaldson, and how do they reach her?
They can call me.
Call
the church
John.
office.
Call-
the church office.
Call the church office. But this is going to be super helpful. We want all the resources we can. Again, what I have my clients do is I have mood charts, and they can get them on their phone. They get them, and they have to document every day. Level, anxious, hypomania, depressed, whatever, and I chart the whole thing. And I look at it, I look at the meds, and then that gives them insight. Because when you're manic, everything is high, and when you're depressed, everything is bad. And you can't see the pattern, and then we see the pattern over the month, 2 months, we see what's going on. So that's one. The workbooks are fabulous. Whether the bipolar 2 workbooks, there's a lot you can get on Amazon, and they're super helpful. Has anybody seen the movie Silver Lining Playbook? It's one of my favorites. The guy is so bipolar, but it's funny, but that kind of shows you the profile of someone who's bipolar. Again, we talked about NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. Next slide. Okay, suicide prevention. Start a conversation. Suicide's preventable. A compassionate, well-informed, shame-free, non-judgmental, nurturing congregation is the key. There is no shame, and the people feel shame. They feel really dark. You want to be really compassionate and non-judgmental when someone's going through this. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. I think, what would Jesus do? Unconditional love, support. And the nurturing congregation. So you guys want to just talk about this from the pulpit. I think every pastor should get up and just talk a little bit about this, and then say, hey, in a congregation of so and so many people, this many people have struggled or are struggling with suicidal ideation, major depression, bipolar. Come talk to us. Come talk to me. There's hope. We can help you. There's no stigma. And so let's talk openly. This is my info. Anybody is welcome to text me, say, hey, Karen, I want to run this by you. I have a family member. I want you to diagnose. I'm happy to do this anytime you want, because my vision is actually to take this to every church within a 50-mile radius of my clinic. That's my vision and one of my mantles. So thank you so much for listening. And questions. Any questions people have, I'm happy to answer.
With mental health, I've been working this field forever, and the hardest part is the stigma.
Yeah.
And for them to approach you or approach your ministry or anything like that to disclose. So I've worked with NAMI a lot. May is Mental Health Month. They're going to hear a lot of programming on that, but their goal is to erase the stigma.
Yes.
And it's the hardest thing for anyone because there's a lot of shame involved in terms of mental health. I like your message, but it's
well, and that's how we have to break the shame.
Right.
Have you guys heard of the Phillips Bible? J.B. Phillips, who wrote one of the Bibles, was in World War II, was there with his congregation. Later on, he battled mental health and was hospitalized. Came through. The guy who wrote Sophie's Choice, trying to think of his name, wrote a book called Darkness Visible. Styron. Beautiful book. The best book I've ever seen on depression. He was hospitalized. Most of your major authors have, struggled. Sylvia Plath, bipolar, committed suicide. Virginia Woolf. And so it's out there. Some of your best and brightest are struggling.
Well, Robin Williams.
I really believe Robin Williams is bipolar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some of the most amazing people are. And that's where we want to kind of get out there. But you know what? When I have people come to my office and I sit and I go, I'm going to talk with you. And this is going to sound weird, but I'm actually going to get out my diagnostic manual and I'm going to ask you questions. Does this go on? They're like, oh my gosh, how did you get it? I go, okay, there's hope. I get it. And they're like, I've been so misdiagnosed. Nobody understands me. I said, I do. I get it. And I've spoken at psych hospitals because there's a lot of people that don't get it. But we need to get it. And it's a very common disorder. And yeah, there's a stigma, and I wish stupid stigmas could break. But I mean, it's dumb. I don't get it anymore. It's just kind of dumb. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think we have to confess pride.
And there's a lot of cultural issues too that goes along with that.
You know, there's a lot of cultural issues, and my late husband was from South India. I've been a widow for 9 years, and I've taught at the South Asian Institute of Advanced Christian Studies in Bangalore. And I've talked with a lot of people, and one of our visions at Crossroads in another 3 years is to tie 10% and for me to train there. And I want to diagnose bipolar too, because Bangalore, where it is, has the highest suicide rate in all of India among the young people. And I just know. I know what it is, and I can diagnose it. And one of my goals is to get a pharmaceutical company to give me a whole bunch of Lamictal. Lamotrigine's a generic, so I can just go and start helping them. You know, again, it's a stigma and a shame-based culture, but when the people are suffering, there's not shame when they're suffering. So in America, we are so privileged. In the developing world, you don't have the meds, you don't have the treatment. They're just getting the intellectual understanding of mental health and psychotherapy, but they don't. And they need people to train and support. And so one of my mantles at Crossroads Family Therapy was to start a top Christian counseling center with Judeo-Christian values to train the next generation of therapists. And then I also train trainees at the California Mental Health Connection, which is a community-based county facility. And so when people go to grad school, it's 2 years of grad school in marriage and family therapy. The second year, they're trainees. And then after they graduate, they have 3,000 hours, about 3 years under me. And I really want to train and form them so that they understand. But that's our vision, and then to go and pioneer places in the developing world and train. So yeah, but I think we need to see that we're privileged in America, and in Los Angeles, there's so much help. You know, and a lot of the small towns in the country, there's just not. And California is the founding of marriage and family therapy. It's one of the centers of some of the best psychotherapy in the world. So there's great help when people want it. Other questions? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I tend to find that people that have bipolar or have some sort of mental situation going on, they take the medication, but then after a while they go, oh, I feel fine, and they quit taking it.
Yep, and that's where they need to be in weekly psychotherapy, because that happens, and then we say, okay, how many tours do you want of a psych hospital? And I've had ones who would have a couple tours of psych hospitals. I have one client that I love to death. Worked with him on and off for 3 years. Haven't seen him in psychotherapy for about 6 months. The parents call me. He's in his 20s. Went off his meds. Batshit crazy. And like, get him on his meds or put him in the hospital. He's like, I don't want to go in the hospital. I said, okay, get him on his meds and I'll see him next week. So yeah, it's pretty typical.
Yes.
The ones who really, I say about 3/4 don't, because they're like, I finally have a diagnosis. But there's a lot that do, and I go, I get it. You want to figure this out, but it is what it is. It's a biochemical imbalance. Like if you have diabetes, you don't go off your meds. If you have a heart condition, you don't. It's the death sentence. And so I'm just very firm with them. But the thing that I see with a lot of people that relapse, they're not in weekly psychotherapy. And so I tell them, you see a psychiatrist, but weekly psychotherapy, because otherwise you're not going to really understand and grow and really understand yourself. And I also recommend NAMI or support groups. So absolutely, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that going off the meds, it happened to my older son many times. My younger son had a poor experience with psychiatric visits, and he had a med, I don't remember what it was, but he really was more depressed.
Yep.
Anyway, and he said, it just makes me a zombie, and he quit taking
It's
it.
probably an antipsychotic.
Yeah, and then he was going to the county clinic down here in downtown Fullerton when they had it there, and seeing a therapist weekly.
Yep.
And then finally he went off that, but he wouldn't talk to me anymore, his father, but he would talk to his mother. And the outcome was he took his life at age 28.
I'm really sorry.
And yeah, that's well known in the church, and at his memorial service, Pastor West
Okay.
talked quite a bit about mental health and so forth. And so,
Yeah, I'm really sorry for your loss. Yeah. No, that's the age that it happens, and a lot of people don't get the right mental health. And I tell people, if the meds aren't working, if the therapist isn't, look for someone else.
yeah.
Because I can tell you, so many of my colleagues don't know bipolar 2 and don't diagnose it, and a lot of psychiatrists don't. And so absolutely. I just tell people, keep going, keep going, keep going. You'll know when it's a good fit because they'll get you. And yeah, so often what they'll do is they'll give some sort of antipsychotic, which numbs a person out, makes them sleepy, something like Zyprexa. Yeah, that's for that's psychosis. But if they're depressed and anxious, you don't give an antipsychotic, you give a mood stabilizer. And so I see this all the time. Really frustrates me. But that's happens, yeah.
So I know that, we want to be able to keep an eye on signs and different things like that from people around us. One of the things I have heard, though, is that self-harm might not necessarily mean suicidal, that it could point to certain other things. And I guess...
Yeah, often self-harm, like cutting, not bipolar, it's not a symptom. That usually is somebody who can't regulate their emotions. It happens a lot with teen girls, and teen boys, but usually their family system is broken. Often there's childhood sexual abuse or physical abuse, and a lot of that is helping them gain coping skills. The best theoretical model is DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. It was started by her last name is Linehan. Yeah, wonderful book. But that's the treatment of choice. You probably use it at your clinic, but that's one of the treatment of choice. And so basically, it's about being mindful, kind of learning to ground in body. She took a lot of Buddhist theology and learned mindfulness meditation principles. We have all that in the Christian faith that we can use, and it's acceptance, and then it's okay, you can change. And then it's a lot of working with your thoughts, and then it's a team approach. DBT is always a team approach. You have a therapist, you have a treatment team. They're in individual therapy, and then they're in groups to learn group skills. But most of that, the cutting and those things, I would say DBT, and it's a very different diagnosis. So absolutely, I don't think I've ever had a bipolar client cut. They just don't. They're hyper. A lot of them actually, the way that they'll manage it, high school, college, is by extreme sports. And I say running and doing sports, which give endorphins, are an amazing piece of it. The other thing I want to tell them is we want to really look at diet. Cut out caffeine, cut out sugars, get on a healthy diet is a huge piece. Other questions? Well, good. Well, thank you. Privileged to be here. And I brought a good friend of mine, Danny, who is from South Africa. He does missions here, and he's living with me for 3 months. His family's lived with me before. And he is a drummer, and I thought we could end with something really upbeat, resonance upbeat. I will brag about him because he has won the Barack Obama Lifetime Award. He's a Grammy Award winning artist. He has grown up in apartheid in South Africa. Nelson Mandela, his son, played for. And so he understands suffering, he understands the darkness, but he understands hope and light. He's with me. He drummed for a group of teens in Baldwin Park and the mayor. He's been going into a senior center doing drumming, and they're loving it. He had a 99-year-old woman that started drumming, and the sons, I've never seen her so happy. He's doing drumming with veterans. He and his son went into the Pomona School District and started doing drummings. And so he just comes here to donate his time, and it's my privilege, and come and do something upbeat.
Good afternoon. It's a real privilege to be here. And I've been knowing Karen for almost 10 years now. We were at an event and she saw my little boy. He was about 10 or so.
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10, yeah. And she saw this little kid just standing there by himself, and like Karen is, went up and talked to him, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I became friends with them, and then I realized they were missionaries. I'm like, come stay at my house for free. Come hang out. And then we become thick as thieves.
Yeah, so it's a real privilege to know Karen and to see what she's doing. And a lot of what she's been doing is really resonate between my wife and I, who's also an occupational therapist in psychiatry. And so people see me on stage, but they don't know my wife is the back office who write the programs for me to be able to come and do what I'm doing. But I'm married 28 years. I still feel like 5. And, my wife and I, we lost 4 children before my son was born.
Wow.
And both of them came through prophecy. And the beauty is I retired as a touring drummer at the age of 33 because I wanted to be a dad, just be around him. God opened this business for us. And so my son is now a senior at Manhattan School of Music.
Oh, nice.
He played at Nelson Mandela's birthday the first time he was 6 years old. He got his first endorsement. He couldn't speak until he was 6. And he got his first professional endorsement from a music company when he was 4 years old, from Yamaha, a lifetime endorsement. And then he's still the youngest university student in Africa at the age of 11. And he graduated to teach at 30. So no matter where our kids are and what the situation is, because I panic as a father, because at 6 you see all the other kids talking. Yours are saying tss, when they want a cool drink, a soda, you make sounds. I'm like, what do you want? Tss, da, da, tss. What is tss? It's when you open the soda and the can go shh. No. And you could say meat, which is in Afrikaans is vlees, because he wanted to eat. He loves meat, so it's meat, and that was our access to words. So so all children are very special. Everyone is cute. Everyone is great. It's a gift of God. Parenting starts with us, not with the teacher. It's with us. Whatever our children need, they need to know. Come to us first. And that's what my message to my son is in college. I said, your mates at college, they might like you, but they don't have your best interest. I have. So if you have an issue, you call me in South Africa, I don't know what time, day or night, call. Because I'm going to give you the advice that's going to help you, because I don't have to benefit from the advice. I don't have to say something so that I can get this out of, if I push you in the wrong direction. I can tell it to you straight the way it is. So I've been doing drumming, my biggest drumming session. So everything that I do is interactive. So in a session like this, you would have had your own drum now. And I would have taught you how to play it. So, but maybe next time. Maybe next time. Yeah, so in Africa we didn't have cell phones. We had drums. So drums, this is our cell phone, because we communicated between our tribes. To say there's war coming, there's people coming to hurt us, or this is a marriage, someone's getting married. We play the drums, and the drums always been a sense of communication. And I'm still using it today, and I'm proud